friends, it's Crystal here from Homemaking on the Homestead, and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to do a what's for dinner video for you. I have done these in the past where I kind of film every night in a row, and I think that they end up just getting repetitive. We have leftovers a lot. That's kind of life when you have only two people you're cooking for. And so what I've done now is just combine a few meals that I have cooked in the last couple of weeks. And all of these meals we ate at least twice. A couple of them lasted us into the third day. And sometimes in between were sandwiches and whatnot. So I just focused on the highlights. So that's what this video is all about. And I hope you enjoy all of these recipes. All right. We really love Alfredo sauce. I had some meatballs from Costco that I wanted to find some uses for, and so I thought, what a great combination. I chopped up some mushrooms, some onions, and garlic. I also took my meatballs and put them into the oven to cook. I didn't know, there's various ways that you can cook meatballs, but I decided to do it that way. While those were cooking, I started my sauce. I have a whole nother video linked to how I make my Alfredo sauce in more detail. This one I added these veggies to, and sometimes I don't even do that. But to my cooked vegetables, I added some cream cheese that was at room temperature. I should say to my cooked vegetables and butter, I added the cream cheese. And I just kind of mushed that around and stirred it up until it had mixed through. Then I started adding milk. Now, I do it until the sauce looks right to me. I have a better idea on my previous video of how much that is, but as you can see, I don't really measure that out. And then I just kind of warm it up and stir it until all the cream cheese has melted. I seasoned it with some salt and pepper. If I don't add fresh garlic, then I would also add garlic. I wanted it a little bit thinner, so I added more milk to it. Finally, I add a little bit of Parmesan cheese. I just keep that in the freezer. I buy that at Costco. I stir that in, and finally I added my meatballs. Now, I cut my meatballs in half because I like that better. And this was absolutely delicious. I ended up serving it over fettuccine noodles. And it was just creamy and very, very, very tasty. I also added a salad and some French bread for our dinner. I really love the ease and simplicity of a sheet pan dinner. I had some kielbasa type sausages. I get those at Costco. I had some peppers, onions, and mushrooms. And I had a can of biscuits. And I was going to turn this into a sheet pan dinner. I began by slicing up all of my peppers. I didn't use all of them, just what I felt like we would eat in a meal. I put those in a bowl, then I did the same with the onion. I mixed all that together, and then I took my mushrooms. And again, I wasn't really following a recipe. I just was using what I had in the refrigerator. And of course, figuring what we wanted, what I felt we could eat in one meal. I used 3 of these sausages. They're fairly large. I ended up weighing them out to see, and I had a little over a pound with all 3 of these. I cut them into about 2-inch pieces. To my bowl of veggies, I added a little bit of olive oil, some salt, and some garlic and herb seasoning. You can add whatever your favorite seasonings are. These are just my standards that I like to use. And now I was ready to start the first round of baking. I laid out the vegetables and topped it with the sausages. Now, this is going to require more time to cook than the biscuits. So I began by cooking these in a 400-degree oven for about 12-15 minutes. I think it was about 15 minutes. So they're about halfway done. Now it was time for the biscuits. You could also use homemade biscuits. And basically, I am baking the whole tray at the temperature and for the amount of time that these biscuits require. So they say about 12 minutes. I think I did 12 to 15 minutes. And the biscuits were nicely done by the time the time was up, and my sausage was excellent. Of course, it's pre-cooked, so it was just heating up. and the veggies were all nice and soft. This was a super simple dinner, came together very fast. I also ended up pulling out some of my triple berry jam that I made not long ago to go with the biscuits. Now, this recipe was really good, or this dinner was really good, and we enjoyed it a lot. I feel badly because I did not get a finished picture, but I'm going to tell you it was good and tell you what I was doing here. I am getting ready to make some rice, and I add those vegetables to the rice, so it's kind of like a rice pilaf. And I am baking my rice. I used a cup of brown rice and 2 cups of chicken broth. I add the vegetables to it, cover it with foil, and I bake it in the oven at about 400 degrees and season it, again, with seasonings of my choice. And I bake it at about 400 degrees until it's done. It's just a super simple option for cooking rice. You could, of course, do it on the stovetop. In my Instant Pot, I put some water and about a pound of pork shoulder. It was actually frozen, and I decided on this meal kind of late in the day. So I added some seasonings, as you can see, and let this cook, not for 90 minutes, but for 45 minutes. And then I did a quick release of the pressure. At that point, I could cut through it, but I want the meat kind of falling apart tender. So I cut up the pieces, put the lid back on, and ended up cooking it for another 25 minutes. At that point, I took it out and shredded it with a fork. We really enjoyed this. I added my barbecue sauce at the end, which is usually how I do it. We served this with the brown rice, and I roasted some broccoli that went with it. But this is a super easy way to make pulled pork. I still had some of the Italian sausage left. I had some peppers that I had needed to finish up, and the onion. And so tonight I was going to do a different meal. I sliced and cut all that up, preheated my frying pan and put a little oil, added my veggies, and stirred and cooked those around until they had cooked almost all the way through. I added my sausages and cooked those, and after that was all heated up and the veggies were soft, I added a can of petite diced tomatoes. I then added my seasonings, which were salt and garlic and a whole lot of Italian seasoning. And I heated that up. I cooked up some angel hair pasta, and I served my Italian sausage and peppers on top of the pasta with French bread and a salad. It was absolutely delicious and super easy to make. This meal takes a little bit more time, but the end result is totally worth it. I had about 8 chicken legs that I was going to cook up in my Dutch oven. I seasoned up some flour, and my rule of thumb is just over season it, because by the time it sticks to the chicken, you don't often have a whole lot of seasoning left. So I seasoned my flour very well. I heated up my Dutch oven and added some oil and a little bit of butter. Now I'm dredging my chicken legs in the flour, and I want to brown them on both sides. So I did 4 at a time so that they could brown nicely and not be overcrowded. I repeated the process with the other 4 legs, and now I am going to make the gravy. I put 3 cups of chicken broth in my blender and 1/3 a cup of that seasoned flour. I cleaned out my Dutch oven and put all the chicken back in there, and I poured my broth flour mixture over that. I did it in the blender because I wanted to make sure there were no lumps. I let this come to a boil. I covered it and I baked it in the oven, I think about 350 for an hour. And when it was done, the chicken was falling off the bone, tender, and the gravy was just perfect. I think in the South they call this smothered chicken, but I'm not sure. Somebody can let me know. I served it with some mashed potatoes and poured that delicious gravy. Because I had used the seasoned flour in it, the gravy was seasoned just perfectly. And I also added some roasted broccoli to it as well. And that was our dinner. And man, that was good. All right, guys, thanks for watching. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel and you like my content, would you consider subscribing? I really appreciate that. All right, everybody, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.